Hi everybody, welcome to Hello Monday. Today in the studio I am making this really fun friendship card. I'm using a brand new stamp set from Lawn Fawn. It's called Blue Skies and it actually has matching dies. They're super fun. And I'm going to start by creating a frame. I wanted to build a scene inside this frame. So I cut a panel of white cardstock and then I cut out the interior with an X-Acto knife and a ruler. And I didn't catch that on film, but you get the idea. And it's about a 3/8 inch border all the way around. And I'm going to save that interior piece and actually use it to stamp on so that I don't have any waste, because we all know that I hate it when paper gets wasted. So now I'm going to white emboss that. I stamped it with Versamark and I'll just use Hero Art's white embossing powder. This is like my favorite white embossing powder. We'll heat that up very quickly. And then it's time to watercolor. Now normally I'd do this on watercolor paper, but I wasn't thinking ahead when I did it. So I'm just going to use a little bit drier brush. And I'm going to take the color from an Adirondack pad, these different colors, and I've tapped them onto an acrylic block, and then I'm just going to load my paintbrush. And the one thing to do when you're not working on watercolor paper is to be sure that you're not overworking the paper, because all that water can pill the surface of the paper. So you just want to take care to use a little bit drier brush and don't sit there and paint over and over and over, overworking the paper. So that way it stays nicely watercolored and it still looks attractive when you're done instead of a big pilled mess. And I had to be careful because I was starting to overwork it and I had to kind of slap my hands and say, hey, that's time to quit. Leave it alone. So once I've got that done, I can go ahead and dry it or let it air dry. I actually took my heat gun and dried it, but then the paper started to warp. So I kind of have to play with it a little bit or flatten it overnight. And then I'm going to go ahead and lay the matching die right over the top and line it up with some washi tape to keep it from shifting. And I'll send that through the die cutting machine. I'm using a Big Shot. And so that these pieces don't get lost, because that happens on my desk a lot, I put them in a bowl and set them aside so that they're in a safe spot. And I already white embossed a long greeting from the set saying Blue Skies ahead. And I did that on a piece of craft cardstock. And I'm just going to go ahead and use my guillotine trimmer to trim that out. And I'm going to end up creating a banner out of that. So now it's time to start building my card. And I'm going to take the frame piece and peel off just a few of the liner papers there of the foam squares that I put on the back. And this is so that I can position that frame onto the card. This is kind of a wobbly frame. It's a little bit challenging to get it mounted. So I only put a couple of the adhesives on there, and then I could go ahead and peel the liners off the rest of them once I knew where I wanted that frame to go. And now it's time to start building the rest of the card, the scene inside. And I'm just kind of messing around here to see how I want things placed, how I want the layout. And it looks like this cloud is going to overhang. So I'm just going to use a pencil and mark where the position of that is going to be. And then I'll trim off the ends because it looks kind of funny hanging out the side of my frame there. So we'll go ahead and trim it off, and then I can take some glue glider and mount that, and there it looks very deliberate and intentional, just as I originally planned. So now my little hot air balloon is still a little bit warped, but I didn't have time to put it under a book, so I'm just kind of flattening it out with my fingers a little bit. And then I'm going to put quite a few foam dots there on the back side because I really want it to stay put and I don't want it to warp. I want it to stay nice and flat on the card front. So I put some extra foam dots there. I'm so impatient. I don't like to wait. And then I'm just going to place that right there over the top of the cloud that's flush mounted there. And then I've got the other little cloud that I die cut from that matching die set. And went ahead and mounted that inside. And now it's time to do some banner ends. These are called fishtail banners. And I'm going to do this using my scissors because I didn't have a square punch that was going to be shallow enough in the corners to get the effect that I wanted on this particular card, because this is a really long sentiment. So I'm going to do it manually. And this is a trick my friend Sherry Carroll showed me. She clips up the center of the strip and then she cuts inward to that the top point of that slit from the outer edges to get that fishtail banner effect. Isn't that cool? I just love that little trick. And then I'm going to go ahead and add some foam dots to the back of that. And I've also got some adhesive on the very ends because that's going to get mounted to the frame. But I do want to have the middle of that banner supported so it doesn't sink and look all wonky. there inside the frame. So there we go. It's coming along really cute. Ooh, I love it. And then I decided in the end that I wanted my balloon to be just a little bit fancier. So I went ahead and white embossed the little pennants, or the bunting, I guess they call it. I don't know why they call it bunting. I still can't figure that out. If somebody knows, tell me. And then I'm going to watercolor the images there with the Adirondack. I love using Adirondack pads for this watercolor method because they're water-based and they bleed out very nicely. And as long as your water brush isn't too wet, you won't peel the paper, and just don't overwork the paper like I said before. And then we'll go ahead and run that through the die cutting machine. And there's my little banner. It's so cute. And I'm going to go ahead and add some foam dots to the back of that so I can 3D mount that. So I've got 2 layers of dimension going on there. And we'll just get that mounted in place. And the card is pretty much finished. Isn't that cute? I love the dimension that it adds and the fun scene there is inside the frame. Thanks for watching.